Hey, you guys. It's like 11 o'clock on Friday night, and I'm watching this show where somebody's talking at a funeral, and it just reminded me of my sister and how I wasn't able to talk to her or about her, or how anybody wasn't able to say one good word about my sister at her funeral. Which brings me to tell her story. My sister was funny and beautiful and had the biggest heart. And it was so important for us to be family, for us to know her kids and for her kids to know me and my kids. And we made it a point to be a family. We made it a point, no matter how far away we were, to see each other at least once a year. About 4 years ago, I got really excited that my sister was going to move to Phoenix. Her husband had lost his job in Spokane, Washington, and they had a choice between him taking a little bit lower of a job in Phoenix or going to South Dakota. Well, they decided, for my sister's sake, that family was more important than anything. And they were going to move to Phoenix, and we were finally going to be together again. We were finally I was going to get to be a full-time aunt, even though I lived 3 hours away, but I had never been so excited and so happy. And I was newly a real estate agent, so I got to, they got to come visit, and we started looking for houses for them. Well, she went back to Spokane while we found them a house, and Rick worked here in Phoenix. I guess it was too low of a job for him. He didn't like it. He wasn't happy. And so after more consideration, they called me with the bad news that, he was going to take that job in South Dakota and they weren't going to move to Phoenix. I was very, very sad about this. Well, they decided to come out for another vacation. We always went to, places where there was slides and pools and lazy rivers and stuff like that together as a family. We would always meet down there and just have so much fun and laughter and love between all of us. So we got a hotel down there, and during the lazy river, my sister told me that she was getting these weird Facebook pages sent to her with Rick and his ex-wife's name on it, and just weird stuff. And she just thought, oh, it's just somebody being stupid, somebody that's jealous or whatever. And just told me about it, mentioned it, and really didn't say much more about it. My sister and her husband moved, and the kids moved to South Dakota. Shortly after that, I don't know, for some reason this phone keeps blurring out, but shortly after that, my sister started getting these emails saying that her husband was cheating on her, saying that she wasn't deserving of anybody or anything, and just horrible, horrible emails and fake Facebook pages of people like cheating in the shower would be the picture that would be on the Facebook page that, she would be friended by, or it'd be a Facebook page with, mistresses that cheat with books on it, and just horrible stuff. And these emails, I started getting involved too. She kept saying there was proof. Go to the Facebook page. There was proof. And I said, you know what, lady? We don't believe you. If there was proof, you'd give it to us. And she never would give us proof. And this kept on happening probably for about a month at first. I mean, it went on for a long time, but, it took about a month. And then one night I'm like, there's just no way. There's no way it happened. There's no way it happened. This lady is crazy. And then my sister said, no, it happened. And I said, no, it didn't, Jennifer. There's no way. And then she goes, no, Amy, it happened. He admitted it. I said, oh my God, I don't know what to say or what to do. And it was just a horrible moment in my sister's life. And I just felt so much hurt for her. And I couldn't believe that he would do that to her. Because they were at their happiest. She was the best mother, the best wife. She was so happy. Made him lunch, made him breakfast, took the kids to soccer, took the kids wherever they needed to go. Just the perfect little family. So why he decided to do it then, I don't know. But we'll never know. So the affair happened in Spokane. The lady's name was Anya Stageberg. This woman was so crazy. She was so mean to my sister. The text she sent her, letting her know how skinny her legs were, how ugly she was, how horrible of a wife she was. I mean, it just went on and on and on, even after we found out it was true. Nothing really was done about it, except for finally, my sister tried to get a restraining order, and that was denied, which I couldn't believe. And I didn't understand why he didn't fight for her for that. Like, he should have gone back and made that happen, but it was just really weird. He didn't. And then finally they had a subpoena done for the Verizon records from Verizon to find out where all the emails were coming from. And of course it came from Darren and Anya Stageberg, all of them. So they were all from her. I knew it was. I knew they were her. She thought maybe there was somebody else too, but I knew they were all from this woman. This woman is out of her mind. She's crazy. So get this. So then we find out that they had moved to Phoenix. So I think that's why all of a sudden she followed him to Phoenix. And then all of a sudden he decided, oh, I can't be in Phoenix anymore, and decided to go to South Dakota. So here's this woman gone from Spokane, following him to Phoenix. And as soon as he decided not to live in Phoenix and moved to South Dakota, that's when she decided to spill the beans on this whole affair. So anyway, so it just broke my sister's heart. I mean, I didn't really know if she'd live through it, because this woman made her feel so down and so unloved and so hopeless. And to think that the person that she loved and trusted most would do that to her just broke my sister's heart. So my sister decided to finally separate, to try to make it, without him. He moved out and got his own place in South Dakota. He was in his own apartment there. And she stayed in the house until they sold it. And, she had reconnected with her best friend in Illinois. And had just such a wonderful time, and found out that the house next door to her best friend was for sale. And so my sister decided to move there. So she moved there. I have another thing to say is, for 6 years, my sister has been saying that he's been trying to poison her husband. Like, she kept thinking that. She sent me even a bottle. I still have that bottle to this day that she sent me, saying that he was poisoning her. He's had fake P.O. boxes. This is the life that she had to live, not being able to trust that one person that's supposed to love you. So anyway, so she moved to Illinois, and, without him. Next thing you know, the bank in South Dakota supposedly did something wrong, horribly wrong, that Rick found out about. And so they paid him off $90,000 to leave and not say anything. So the whole marriage is just weird and odd and not normal. And, you say these stories and it's something out of a book or something out of a CSI investigation, it's just weird. Like, I don't understand them. I never did, but I never asked questions. Even after he cheated on her, I never said one wrong word to that man. Never, ever, because I wanted what my sister wanted. And if it was to have him in her life, then that was fine with me, because I believe in forgiveness, and, you know, whatever she wanted, whatever was going to make her happy is all as I wanted in my heart. So, anyway, so my sister went to Illinois and she got a house. He followed shortly and got a condo close by. Really close by, I guess. I've never been to either the South Dakota house or the Illinois house, because once she moved to Illinois, we had a family reunion in Wisconsin every June, and so we would all meet up there, and the kids and me and the whole family, we would meet up there and spend our time together, all where we could all see my mom, my dad, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, everybody all at once. It was just easy. So I've never been to the Illinois house or the South Dakota house. I tried to go to the South Dakota house right after he cheated, but she said not right now. So anyway, my sister did start drinking, you know, after this whole thing happened. She would call me and tell me that, and I think this was still in South Dakota, you know, right after the whole thing happened. She would call me and tell me she would beg him not to bring alcohol back into that house. She would beg him, and he would still bring it. You know, he liked her that way. One time my sister went to Wisconsin, to visit for the summer. Like, she spent like, I don't know, I think like 3 months or something. She got a cabin down there, and whenever Rick would visit, Rick would come on the weekend, and he'd come with a 12-pack. And my mom and my aunt were witnesses to my sister, you know, like falling down because she had so much to drink, and him still handing her a beer. I'm just trying to let you guys know that the whole history in this whole thing. And I didn't do this live because I just wanted to say what I need to say, and then I'm gonna post it. So we'll see. I probably should have done it live, but I just didn't want to. So you guys are all gonna get a YouTube video, and if you watch, great, because I just, you know, I need lots of prayers. So he moved rather close. Somewhere in their marriage, my sister had fallen downstairs and had to have back surgery. And then she had to have a second back surgery, so she needed a lot of help with the kids. So he was good at that. Like, he made sure he was always there at that house, at her beck and call, you know. He didn't want her to move on. My sister started dating a guy, and someday I want to show all the pictures. I think it was like 1.5 years ago now that she dated him. But the pictures of him and her, she was so happy. I see those pictures and I just smile because she was so happy. So she was dating him. He comes out, his car's scratched, you know. So they had to clean out the garage and hide his car in the garage. And he had the kids when this happened. My sister's husband, Rick, did. So my sister always wondered, like, how did, you know, did he leave the kids alone in his apartment when he went to go scratch, you know, Nate's car? Did he, you know, did he bring the kids with? We'll never know. He also flattened one of his tires. And it just made it impossible for Jennifer to have another relationship. He, you know, the person that Jennifer was in the relationship obviously had to look over his shoulder all the time. And, you know, he wanted to have a good, you know, a real relationship with my sister. He cared very much for her, and I believe that. And it's sad. I wish that Rick would never have come back into the picture. So anyway, so for the last year, it's been kind of hard to get a hold of my sister. My mom had a heart attack in January, and I got a hold of her, and, you know, she sounded like maybe she had a little bit to drink. And I told her Mom had had a heart attack. And as soon as Rick got home from work, her and Rick and the kids, I'm sure I'm skipping tons of stuff, you guys, but I'm just trying to tell the story. Her and the kids and Rick all drove to Wisconsin, where my mom was, to La Crosse. And I got on a plane, I think that night, or the first thing in the next morning. I was there by the next day in Wisconsin. And Rick left my sister there with us. And within 2 days, I had my sister back. And that's the way it was. Whenever she was away from him, whenever she was with us, she'd be fine. She'd look horrible the second I'd see her. Just like last summer, she looked horrible. She looked like an 80-year-old woman. And the second he'd go away, or the second she was with us, she'd be okay. And that was the last time we got to spend together. And so, even though my mom had a heart attack, you know, it was a godsend, because us three got to be together. And my dad got to see her. That's a story too. But anyway, we all got to be together. During that, I had to leave and go home. I spent like 3 or 4 days there with them, and then I had to leave. And my sister, by herself, with no help from anybody, you know, no shaking, no nothing, took care of my mom for 2 weeks and was just fine, and went back home. And then she wasn't fine again. So she called my dad, and my dad came and visited, and I don't know how much longer after the heart attack that can't happen, but my dad was making breakfast for her, and they were making breakfast together, and she was doing really good again. Everything was fine. And then my dad had to leave, and she even called my dad up how proud she was that she was eating every day and making breakfast for herself every day, and everything was going great. And then I don't know, it wasn't like but a week that she called my dad and said that Rick was taking the car and going back to work, and she didn't know what she was going to do and how she was going to take care of the kids. And my dad went back there. And he spent like a week with her. Well, he didn't hardly see her. He was sleeping down in the basement one night, and he heard my sister like groaning in pain, and he heard her husband, he heard Rick say, "Stop it. You just need to stop it," to my sister. Oh, that didn't make my dad, you know, my dad was not happy about that. And then during the same thing, my sister walked out, and she kind of just laid on the couch, and she goes, "I'm sorry." And she plopped down there, and one of her legs fell on the floor, and my dad tried to hug her, and there wasn't any response. And he told Rick, "She needs help. She needs something. You know, something's going on here. She needs help." And Rick just looked at him and said, "That's not going to happen." So my dad had a doctor's appointment, so he had to leave. And he's had his retina come off a couple of times. So he he left that next morning after he heard Rick yelling at my sister. And I believe he called my sister and wanted to pick her and the kids up. And she said no. So I think she answered. I think. My dad can corroborate that. I don't. Anyway, so he called Rick, and he said, "I'm going to be there on Saturday." And Rick said, "Oh, Saturday's not a good day." And he's never really told my dad that, you know. And so my dad, you know, had to work on his truck. Something happened to his truck, and he couldn't get there, so he wasn't going to wait. He felt like if he didn't wait, that if he waited to the weekend and to go there on Monday, that my sister would be dead. And my dad's never felt like that before. So I was just like, oh my God, you know. So my dad called the police and asked for a welfare check for my sister. The police went there, knocked on the door, no answer. They went there again, knocked on the door, no answer. They knew when the kids got out of school. My dad told them. So they went there when the kids were supposed to be home, and no answer again. So, apparently the kids called Rick, and Rick told them to hide in the basement from the cops. So, then finally when Rick went home, got home at like 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night. The police came again, and they just called my dad, and I never got to find out what they said to them, what happened, or anything. They just said everything was fine. That's what the police said. This was 1 month before my sister died. So then, my dad had called Rick and said, the police are at your door. And Rick said, great. I was going to try to get her sober. So none of us had any idea. My dad didn't know that. My dad just thought my sister was sick. You know, he never saw any alcohol in the house. He never saw my sister drink alcohol. So, you know, we had no idea. So I talked to my sister after that. And no, I tried to call my sister. And Rick said, what do you want, Amy? And I said, well, I want to talk to my sister. Your dad called the police on you. And I said, well, I'm really sorry for that. But he heard my sister crying in the middle of the night. And then I heard my sister crying in the background saying, what? And then he goes, your father. And I said, he goes, my kids had to hide in the basement. And I said, why did your kids have to hide in the basement? And he hung up on me. And at that very moment, he blocked me from my niece, my nephew, and him from calling all three of them just because I said, why did the kids have to hide in the basement? Anyway, so then, you know, my daughter asked me, well, what else are we going to do? And I said, well, what else can we do? We called the police for a welfare check. And I guess it's because I thought everything was going to be okay. I thought it was just because she had been drinking. You know what I mean? So I and I had not heard about the part where she didn't respond to my dad's hug until after my sister passed away. So I didn't hear that part yet. I just heard that she had been drinking. And so I thought, well, that's what was going on. You know, I had no idea how bad things really were. So anyway, I told my daughter, I said, Ashley, you know what? If he was going to kill her, because she's been thinking that all these years, if he was going to kill her, she'd already be dead. And that's what I told my daughter. And my daughter said, Mom, he doesn't want to kill her. He wants to keep her sick. You know, my daughter thinks he's got that Munchausen's by proxy or whatever because, you know, he liked it when my sister needed him. And when my sister was strong, she didn't need him. She didn't love him anymore. She never forgave him, ever. She still wanted to do a lie detector test. She never felt like he told the whole truth. He had people follow her, and he admitted that he had people follow her. You know, it was just this whole big thing. It was a horrible, horrible marriage. But he made himself out to be a good husband and a good father. That's what he wanted everybody to believe. But I don't even know him. 15 years, I don't even know who he is. So 1 month later, I get a call from my dad that the police are outside of my sister's house. And I dropped to my knees. And I prayed to God that she was okay. And I told my dad I was scared. He didn't let me know, you know, right away that he really thought that she was already gone. So when he got the call, he called my husband. And my husband called me. And he just said, your dad called me. And I said, well, what did he want? And he said, Jennifer's passed. And I just started screaming. And I said, no, no, no. It can't be true. I tried to call Rick's phone over and over and over again, and he never answered. And I was still blocked. So he never answered, and he never called me back. He didn't call my mom. He didn't call my dad, and he didn't call me. The immediate family, the people that loved her most. The only person he called was my Aunt Mary to say that he needed help with her funeral. So my son and I and my husband flew back home. My husband was in Montana when this all happened, so I had to wait a couple of days to leave. And so we went back home, and on the plane, you know, my son, you know, my mom had said we could all speak at the funeral. My son wanted to write something, and he felt like my sister had wrote it with him. On the plane, he cried a lot of tears while he wrote this beautiful, 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 beautiful thing for my sister Jennifer, because they grew up with her, and man, she was special to my kids. So special to my kids. She was the best aunt and the best sister you could have ever asked for. Sorry. So we get there. My mom, you know, says, you make sure you hug him and you make him feel welcome. I said, okay, I'll do it. So I gave him a hug when I got there. Even my son did. You know, even my son was trying to find forgiveness in his heart for this man. And, I walked in the other room. I gave the kids hugs. I got to see Jake. Gave him a big hug. Talked to him for a minute. And I asked Rick, because, you know, mind you, I've still not ever heard one word from him. Talked to him about what happened. Nothing. I said, you want to go for a walk so we can talk? He said no. He said, I got to go to Walmart in 20 minutes or something like that. I said, all right. So I sat next to him and I said, you should have called me. Right in front of the kids. Right in front of everybody. I whispered, you know. But, you know, he tried to make me feel bad for that even. It's the only time I ever got to talk to him. Well, that's not true. I left there that night and I went to the family reunion, which happened to be the same weekend. Went to the family reunion, and my mom calls me and lets me know that Rick has made it known that nobody's allowed to talk at the funeral. Oh, I got upset. And, you know, God forbid that I should get upset that nobody's allowed to talk at my sister's funeral, you know. I mean, my mom was mad at the way I was acting, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Let me talk to him. This is my sister. I'm so upset at what happened. This is my sister. I'm so sorry for the ugly crying, you guys. But this is real. And I just have to tell everybody what happened. So I asked to talk to Rick. And I tried to be as nice as possible to kiss his ass. And I said, my son wrote this. Please, please, Rick, let him say it. It means a lot to him. No, no. This funeral, Jennifer's always been about everybody else. So this is just going to be about Jennifer. That's what he said to me. And I said, listen, I said, if it makes you feel better, you can read it first. Read what my son wrote before you tell him no. Nope, nope, nobody's allowed. I was just so distraught. My sister's dead. People aren't sticking up for me. People aren't sticking up for my sister, and they're just kissing his ass. And it was wrong. Wrong. I wish right now I sat at that funeral and I was not allowed to say one good word about my beautiful sister. Either was my son, either was my dad, either was my mom, either was nobody was allowed to say one good word about her. Wonderful stories and a celebration of my sister's life. She deserved that. And I hate myself for not standing up and just against all odds. I should have stood up and just stood up for her. And I'm sorry for that, Jennifer. I'm sorry. I love you. During the eulogy, there was only one woman that spoke at my sister's funeral. She didn't even know her. Never met her. All it did is talk about Rick. Rick's name was mentioned probably 12 times in that eulogy. There was nothing touching about the eulogy at all, except for the end. where it mentioned the people that loved her, me and my mom and my dad and my sister, I'm sorry, and my kids, you know, on the day she was born and the day she died. My dad went to the funeral. He didn't want to because, you know, he was afraid that, you know, he was going to kill him. And he had to be quiet, you know? Everybody had to be quiet for him. So, I got to talk to the coroner. And I think I got to talk to her I got to talk to him right after he did it. And he informed me that my sister had been bedridden for 3 weeks. That he was putting depends on my sister. Did he call me? Because, you know, he knows how much we love each other. He knows how much we love her and that we would have been on that plane in 2 seconds to be by her side. I don't care. If she was going to die, I would have held her hand. Even though I know for a fact, even though we don't have a cause of death, that my sister could have been saved. So he says that he was trying to wean my sister off of vodka. That it was like, that he had her weaned down. This is what he told the coroner. That he had her weaned down from 8 airplane bottles down to 3. So he was leaving my sister in Depends with 2 bottles of water and a bottle of Gatorade mixed with these 3 shots of vodka every day by herself. Kids aren't allowed to go in and see my sister. For 3 weeks, he did this. Ugh. How? You know, people talk about forgiveness. How do you forgive that? How do you ever come back from that? And I want to let you guys know, he has never, ever talked to me. My son got to go say his eulogy on my dad's side of the family. And then finally, we were going to say it at my aunt's house on my mom's side of the family. And I said, Rick, Bobby's going to say his eulogy. And he says, I got to go. And he takes the kids and he leaves. Never talked to me. Still to this day, I have not heard one word from that man. Did he love my sister? Maybe in some sick kind of way. But what would my sister want? My sister was about those kids knowing my son and my daughter and me and their grandpa and their, you know, and he has completely cut all of us except for my mom and my aunt because, you know, which I'm glad they're doing what they're doing, you know, because at least somebody can text the kids, you know, but he's cut us all out of the kids' life. That's not what Jennifer would want. He has no love for her spirit or who she was at all. You know, the police said what he did was very immoral, but it's up to the state's attorney if what he did was illegal. So we'll find out within, you know, the next week, I'm sure. I think we're supposed to find out next week. You know, I thought about trying to appeal to his heart, but my husband doesn't think that he has one, you know. He cut his own brother and sister out of his life for 10 years just because they sent a card and asked him to be nice to his mom. 10 years. 10 years. Cousins didn't get to know cousins. You know, they got kids. It's the saddest thing in the world. Like, he's not normal. And I have to, every time I think about my beautiful sister, remember. And she was mad. She was mad because we called the police, you know. And I got to talk to her and tell her how much I loved her after that. Finally, because I had sent her a message on Fitbit, and so she called me. And so we got to talk. That was, I don't know, around April 15th or something like that. Maybe April 20th. And then on April 29th, I don't remember, maybe a couple days before that, I'd left her a message because she was being mean to Dad because he called the police. And I said, you know, you need to take some responsibility, Jennifer. You have been telling us Rick has been trying to poison you for years. And Dad finally believed him and called the police. And so on April 29th, when I tried to call the kids, she finally listened to my message, which I didn't know she hadn't listened to that before, and got mad at me and told me, you know, that she was, you know, blocking me. And that was the last, you know, last thing she ever said to me. I never gave up. I never did. Like, my sister was the kind of person that's what she would do. She would stop talking to each person in this family. Some point in her life, she would stop talking to you because she'd be mad. And I don't know how people do that, because I would cry every night that she wasn't talking to me, because she did it like a year ago too. And I would send her Facebook messages telling her how much I love her. I would send her texts how much I love her. I had my mom call and check on her, you know. My mom would be, you know, like, I tried to get my mom and my Aunt Mary because she was so sad that they weren't calling her. And I said, call her anyway. You know, and they'd be like, oh, she's just being Jennifer, not me. And I'm sorry, but I am speaking the whole truth and nothing but the truth here. You know, I never gave up on her. I asked my cousin Teresa to call and check on her. Asked my mom to call and check on her. He never called anybody back. Not one person. My daughter called to check on her and left her messages. What he did was wrong. What he's doing to my niece and my nephew is wrong. I don't want to talk bad. I don't want to say anything to the kids. I just want to tell them I love them. And that's what I do. I'm friends with Charlie on PlayStation. So I send him a message, I love you. Rick deleted me off of there. You know, he is not a good person. I'm sorry. You know, and the kids, from what I heard, didn't even go out all summer long to play with their friends and stuff. So, you know, he's not being a good person. So that's it, you guys. Thank you. I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to play it. And I'm going to put it on Facebook, and I don't care. So, I do want to ask for prayers for my niece and my nephew and me to help me through this, because it's the worst thing I've ever been through in my entire life. And prayers for my son, who suffers from depression and had lost his dad, and now has lost his precious aunt. And to my daughter, who lost her dad and her aunt. And just to our entire family. My mom and my dad, who've lost a daughter now. You know. Pray for us all. Pray for healing. I'm not ready to pray for forgiveness yet, because I just don't know how. So if any of you have any suggestions to me about forgiveness, let me know. Love y'all. Love my sister with all my heart. She didn't deserve any of this. Thanks. Good night.